30,000 men vanish into a blinding white void on a cold Easter morning in 1471. They are positioned so close they can hear the rattle of each other's harnesses and the nervous breaths of the front line. Yet, they are invisible. In this choking mist, the most powerful man in England will discover that the greatest weapon on the field isn't a sword or a cannon. It is the terrifying silence of a localized advection fog. Richard Neville, the Earl of Warwick, has crowned 2 kings, and now he intends to kill the one he raised. Standing against him is King Edward IV, a towering warrior of 6'4", who has spent months in a desperate exile. The stakes are absolute: the survival of the House of York or the total restoration of the Lancastrian line. This is the moment where the Kingmaker finds his legend challenged by the very elements themselves. By noon, the Kingmaker will be dead, and the crown of England will be reshaped forever. This is not just a story of a battle, but of a catastrophic mistake born from a sensory vacuum. We will witness how a simple heraldic badge, obscured by a grey shroud, turns an army against itself. The silence that follows the carnage at Barnet is the quiet reshaping of a kingdom's future, a pivot point that leads directly to the Tudor dawn. The action begins in the dead of night as Edward IV leads his small force of veterans on a silent approach toward the Lancastrian camp. He is using tactics he honed during his narrow escapes, a hard-earned lesson that silence is often more lethal than a trumpet blast. He orders his men to extinguish all fires and maintain absolute quiet, inching within a few hundred yards of Warwick's unsuspecting lines. Warwick, believing the Yorkists are still miles away, orders his heavy artillery to fire blindly into the darkness. He relies on this sheer weight of power to demoralize his cousin, but the noise is his undoing. Because Edward has moved so close under the cover of night, the Lancastrian cannonballs sail harmlessly over the Yorkist heads, splashing into the marshy valley. Edward orders his own guns to remain silent, hiding in the dark. As dawn approaches, a dense advection fog rolls across Gladsmere Heath, a high plateau north of London. The environment is now a claustrophobic trap, damp and freezing, reducing visibility to a mere 20 yards. The ground is a treacherous mix of open heath and saturated marshy hollows. This silent weapon begins to filter reality, stripping the commanders of their vision and leaving them to manage a battle they can only hear. The air is thick with the scent of wet wool and the metallic tang of oiled steel. Every snapped twig sounds like a cavalry charge in the muffled landscape. Warwick peers into the white abyss from the high ridge, unable to see that his carefully laid battle plan is already failing. His brother, the Marquis of Montague, waits in the center, his men clutching poleaxes with white knuckles. They wait for a light that the sun refuses to provide. In the darkness of the deployment, a structural disaster has occurred. Because no one could see the enemy's position, the 2 armies are offset. On the Yorkist right, a teenage Richard, Duke of Gloucester, finds himself overlapping the Lancastrian left. On the opposite flank, the Lancastrian Earl of Oxford overlaps the Yorkist left. Neither side realizes they are walking into a revolving door. At 5 in the morning, the silence is shattered by trumpet blasts. Edward IV, his gilded armor reflecting only the dull grey light, orders a general advance. The Yorkist lines surge forward into the mist, a wave of steel crashing into a wall of white. Arrows fly blind into the grey, while the roar of thousands of men fills the air. The initial exchange is short, but the collision is absolute. The physical toll is immediate as the soldiers struggle for purchase in the freezing mud of the plateau. A standard suit of field plate armor weighs between 45 and 60 pounds, a leaden cage that presses into the shoulders with every heavy breath. As the divisions collide, they enter a state of blind, grinding attrition. Men fight in small, isolated circles, unaware if their comrades 10 yards away are winning or being slaughtered. Among the Yorkist ranks are several hundred Flemish handgunners, marking the first major use of portable firearms on an English field. Their early handgun roar with a thunderous report, belching plumes of black sulphurous smoke that mingle with the natural fog. The psychological shock is immense, yet the weapons are unreliable in the damp air. Many fail to fire, leaving the soldiers to rely on the brutal calculus of iron-on-iron hand strokes. On the Yorkist right, the young Duke of Gloucester leads a desperate charge up a slippery incline. This is his first major command, a trial by fire where he must prove his loyalty to his kingly brother. He finds himself flanking the Duke of Exeter's division, his men's feet churning the earth into a bloody slurry. Gloucester, a boy becoming a man in the heat of war, exerts his tactical advantage, pushing the Lancastrian left back. The Earl of Oxford achieves a stunning Lancastrian success on the opposite flank. His division overlaps the Yorkist left and crushes it with a single, devastating surge. Lord Hastings' men break almost instantly, fleeing back toward the town of Barnet. In the mist, they scream that the king is dead and the cause is lost, some running all the way to London to spread news of a Yorkist defeat. Oxford's men, fueled by adrenaline, pursue the fleeing Yorkists into the streets of Barnet. While they stop to plunder the town, the main battle on the heath continues in a grey vacuum. For 2 hours, the centres of both armies are locked in a melee. Edward IV and Warwick both fight on foot to prove to their men they will not abandon them. They are ghosts fighting in a grey room. The melee causes the entire front to rotate 90 degrees. The successful wings of both armies have pushed forward, swinging the line from north to south to a new east-to-west orientation. This mechanical turn reconfigures the battlefield, and it is here that the fog turns from a nuisance into a lethal trap. The Earl of Oxford, having finally rallied 800 men in Barnet, leads them back toward the sound of the fighting to strike. Oxford intends to smash into Edward's exposed rear, but the pivot has changed everything. He emerges from the mist not behind the Yorkists, but directly behind his own centre, commanded by Montague. Through the swirling grey, Montague's archers see a massive body of troops approaching from the darkness. They squint through the narrow slits of their steel sallets, trying to make out the banners that will decide the fate of their dynasty. Oxford's badge is the silver star with streamers, a central disc with radiating points. King Edward's personal emblem is the sun in splendour, a golden sun with 16 rays. In the low, grey light of the fog, these two symbols are visually identical. To Montague's archers, it looks like a Yorkist reserve is launching a surprise attack from the rear. The fear of betrayal instantly takes hold. Montague's archers do not hesitate. They unleash a devastating, concentrated volley of arrows into their allies. The shock among Oxford's men is absolute. They have returned to save the day, only to be slaughtered by their own side. "Treason! Treason!" The cry erupts across the Lancastrian line like a wildfire. In an age of shifting loyalty, the fear of a knife in the back is more terrifying than any enemy charge. Oxford's men turn and flee back into the mist. The panic is contagious, and the heart of Warwick's army begins to dissolve. Edward IV senses the shift immediately. He cannot see the full collapse, but he can feel the resistance slackening. He orders his final reserves forward, personally leading the charge into the dissolving Lancastrian ranks. The Kingmaker realizes his empire is crumbling and turns to escape toward the woods. Warwick is overtaken at the edge of Wrotham Wood, his magnificent iron harness pinning him to the earth like a fallen titan. The armor that protected him in the melee is now a heavy, lethal burden in the retreat. The accounts are brutal. A Yorkist soldier thrusts a dagger through the eye slit of his helmet. The man who decided the fate of England is executed in the mire, his blood cooling in the same fog that broke his army. As the mist finally lifts, it reveals a landscape of absolute Yorkist triumph. The death of Warwick removes the central pillar of the Lancastrian cause and destroys the concept of the overmighty subject, the nobleman who could rival a king. Edward IV has the bodies of Warwick and Montague taken to London and displayed naked at St. Paul's Cathedral. They are laid out for 2 days, cold proof that the Kingmaker is gone. The consequences of this foggy morning echo across the centuries. The survival of figures like the Earl of Oxford ensures that the seeds of the Tudor dynasty are planted in the soil of this defeat. History was not written by a grand strategy, but by the unpredictable, blinding whiteout of an English spring. If you felt the weight of the Kingmaker's fall, hit the like button and subscribe for more stories of the moments that shaped our world. Subscribe to our channel and hit the notification bell to witness more historical pivots that changed the future.